read, a general journal for Rod Electric is given below. Your instructor will guide you through the following example. Using the current year, journalize the following transaction on page 8 of a general journal. Source documents are abbreviated as follows: M memorandum, DM for debit memorandum. So we have two transactions right here. One of the things that's really nice right now when we do our work together and on our own, even our application problems, is we know exactly which journal to work on. Eventually, on your mastery problem for this chapter, you're going to have to figure out which journal goes with each transaction. So that actually has to be your first thought process. So far in accounting land, when you see a transaction, your first thought process has been, what two accounts am I affecting? Now you have to say, what journal, then what two accounts. Your source documents are going to clue you in immensely. If it's a C, what journal? Cash payments. If it's a P, what would P stand for? Purchases. What journal do we have? Purchases. Remember, that's the first one that we learned. That was in 9-1. We have a purchases journal which is used only when we buy merchandise on an account. And when we have an M, now we're going to have a series of M's. We're going to have a debit, we're going to have a DM, we're going to have an M, and we're going to have a CM. But pretty much M's stand for memorandums, and most of the time they're going to be going in your general journal. Now look at our general journal. Holy cow, that's pretty slick, isn't it? All you have is debit and credit. Do you have any special columns? No. But this is where our life gets a little trickier. This is where you are going to mess up, and it's going to cause your life not to be in balance anymore. That's bad. Ready? Now, I've talked about a subsidiary ledger, where we have a separate ledger where I have all my vendors, or I have a separate ledger that I have all my customers. I've also talked about one big controlling account called accounts receivable or accounts payable. So in my general ledger, I'm going to have an account called accounts payable. And in that account, accounts payable, it gives me the total amount I owe all of my vendors. So, for example, in this room, if each one of you was a business that I buy an account from, it would be a lot of work for me to go through to figure out exactly how much I owe total for all of my accounts payable, wouldn't it? Do you think it's realistic for big businesses to have this many customers or even more, or excuse me, vendors or even more? So at any given point, a business needs to be able to look at it and say, how much do I owe all of my vendors? That is going to be something that you can get really quick in your account, accounts payable. It is a controlling account, gives you the total value of all of the little ones. Okay? So when we go through to post or to journalize to a transaction affecting accounts payable now, before we used to write accounts payable, Don's Quality Market. Now we have two separate accounts that we need to use, and one of them is going to be accounts payable, and the other one's going to be Don's Quality Market. It's not pulled all together, so I really have to go through and say I'm affecting two accounts, accounts payable / Don's Quality Market. And because I'm affecting two accounts, I have to post those two accounts, so I also need to put a / in my post reference column, because I have to post to the account, accounts payable, and I have to post to the account, Don's Quality Market. They are two separate accounts, and I need to make sure they're both posted to. If not, you're not going to be proving when you have to do your work at the end of the fiscal period. So when we take a look at our transactions for this one, the first one reads that we bought store supplies on account from Designer Supplies. Okay. We've done this before. We did it in our general journal before, but we would have done supplies office, and then we would have done Designer Supplies. So it's very similar, but we have to add that accounts payable / whatever. Which account's being debited? What do you think, Katie? You know it. I'm just putting you on the spot. Which account is being debited for that first transaction? Supplies office, right? Isn't it supplies office or store? Store. Ooh, see, I said the wrong one. So what we have to do, you will notice that our page number is already put on here in the upper right-hand corner. We have to put our month and our day on here just like we had before. We're working in October of the current year. So the day is October 5th, and I'm doing supplies, store. Source document is M35, and I'm debiting it 180. Now, my next line has to be accounts payable / designer supplies. Two separate accounts. Accounts payable and designer supplies. And do you see the slash mark here? If you have a slash mark here, you have to put a slash there, okay? If you don't do that, it will mark the whole line wrong. It even tells you in the directions right here, the note part that everyone skipped. Note, place a slash in the post-reference column to show the single amount is posted in 2 accounts. So that's basically what we're doing. And then we're going to go over to the credit and put in 180. Right? That wasn't too hard, would you agree? Now, the 7th, return merchandise to Hendrick Products, $540, DM 65. DN stands for a debit memorandum. Basically, debit memorandum is any time we're returning merchandise that we bought originally. Okay? So we have a contra account to purchases called Purchases, Returns, and Allowance. We go through and keep track of all of the products that we have returned. So at the end of the fiscal period, I could go through and look to see, oh my goodness, we returned $3 million worth of merchandise. That's kind of a lot. Or maybe you only returned 500. That's not too bad. If we had $3 million worth of products that was returned, what would that tell us? Something is not right, and we need to take a look at it. That's important financial information for us, which is why we have a separate account for purchases, returns, and allowances versus just putting it back into purchases. We have these accounts for us to make decisions, to look at our policies and procedures. Maybe there's an automatic ordering. For example, this is a total random fact. Did you know when there's a potential of a hurricane in the area, they sell a lot more Pop-Tarts at Walmart? They do. Not that we have a lot of hurricanes in the area. That's just a random fact that I know. So Walmart actually has a lot of automated distribution, so they can see if there's imminent weather coming into the area. They will actually go ahead and ship extra items to that area there. Now think about it. Could you eat a Pop-Tart without electricity? Could you grab it and could you go? Yeah, not really nutritious, but it is better than nothing to eat. So that's one of those products that Walmart knows if there's going to be a lot of weather issues to have stocked up. Okay? But then also could be after a while they have too much of it and they need to return items. And that could be one of the things that happens within your business. We have some automated purchasing that's happening, and it's not really the hot trend. I was talking with a manager at Shopko right after Valentine's Day, and I said, oh, did you have to work on Valentine's Day? She's like, yep, I had to close. Or the day before Valentine's Day. Oh, no, I know what it is. I got it. Valentine's Day was Sunday. Thursday night, there was a lot of parents coming into Shopko. Valentine's was Sunday, Thursday night. Why? Parents.
Because they do that one of
the Valentine's cards, you know what I mean? You got to get the box, got to get decorated, you get a ring pop, what did you get? Like, oh, type of thing, right? So everyone's looking for those Valentine's cards. How many Valentine's cards do you think they had left over on Thursday night? Not a lot. What's that? Yes, like the little individual ones you can hand out, whatever type of thing. Not like the big cards that you could give your schmoopy person that you wanted to give to it. Okay? So customers were complaining that they didn't have any cards left, but the store's like, we know we had plenty, but you waited till the last moment, so they didn't have any, so people are angry. So you got to go through and have a balancing act of how much money are you going to how much product you're going to have on hand to meet your customers' needs. But if you have too much, what happens after Valentine's Day? Is anyone going to buy it? Even if they're on sale, people are going to hold on to it for a whole year, Valentine's cards? Yep, whatever it is. And oftentimes they may have candy with them, and sometimes you don't want that candy sitting around for a whole year. Like Tootsie Rolls, they're not good after a year. They're okay, but the fresh ones are much better. Sometimes they get stuck in your teeth. What's that? I found that I have a real addiction for Tootsie Rolls. If they're in my house, I must eat them. Well, I don't personally, but FBLA probably does. No. Pretty soon, though, I'm going to go through my kids' Halloween bag and bring in some candy to get rid of it. Yeah, some of it might not be stellar. So when we take a look at journalizing this transaction, DM again stands for debit memorandum, which means we're going to be affecting the account purchases, returns, and allowance. Now, it's a contra account. What's the normal balance of purchases? Said it already today. Debit. So if purchases, returns, and allowance is a contra account to it, what's its normal balance? Credit. Okay? So it has a credit normal balance, just so we can keep track of the items that it's being reduced. So therefore, what has to be credited here? I just gave you part of the answer. Purchases, returns, and allowances. So what's going to be debited? Accounts payable, the name of our customer, right? So we're going to put in there the date of the 7th. We'll do accounts payable, Hendricks product, DM, I can't type, 65. You put a slash in the account title, you got to put a slash in the post reference. Many of you are going to lose lots of points for not putting that slash in there. Then you're going to go to purchases, returns, and allowance, 540. Go ahead, try on your own. Yes, it is graded. Oh, I'm all tricky on you today.